Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, the last one from the series Anxious Lawyer. I'm Andrea Sherban. I'm the chair of the Work-Life Balance, and thank you for joining our committee meeting. And you are welcome to join the monthly meeting on July 26th at 12:30 p.m. And I'm so excited today to have our special guest. Thank you, Jeena, for your contribution and for all the serious webinars. You brought so much value for lawyers' life. So Jeena Cho, she's expert in better lawyering through mindfulness. You have all the material, a very valuable material I recommend to go through. And please take over, Jeena. Thank you so much for your contribution, and hope to see you soon in our committee and to join our committee too.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Andrea, for the introduction, and thanks to the Beverly Hills Bar Association for having me for our final and third installment of our 8-week series from the book, The Anxious Lawyer. So this is part 3 for our 8-week program. So the book has an 8-week program built into it, and it's really nice to see everyone here. I see some familiar faces. I see Barry and Catherine. Hi. All right, so for our time together today, we have about 30 minutes. What I thought we would do is to start with a loving kindness meditation. So for weeks 4 through 8, we introduced the theme of bringing self-compassion to yourself, and then compassion to others, which I know is can be quite challenging, right, as lawyers to practice being compassionate towards yourself and others, but it's just been such a hugely important part of my law practice. So like I said, we'll do about a 15-minute guided meditation practice, because really, like, all the benefits that are discussed in the book, and probably you know from elsewhere for the benefits of practicing mindfulness and meditation, you can't get just by sort of understanding mindfulness and meditation intellectually. It really does require the regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. And I also want to add that it doesn't need to take a lot of time. So even just a few minutes a day can make such a huge difference. So I'm going to start the practice now, and then I'll just open it up for any questions or comments, either from the book or elsewhere. And hopefully, hopefully I'll get some questions, but 32 of us here together, or I'll just cold call on people. So just kidding. All right, so let's get started. Let's start with our compassion practice. So let's start by finding a comfortable seated position. And really taking a moment to check in with the body. So often we tend to place great emphasis, or all of our emphasis, on the intellectual knowing or our cognitive capacities, and we forget that there is a body attached to the thinking mind. So for the next 15 minutes or so, really inviting yourself to be here, to give yourself this radical gift of non-doing and non-striving. So to the extent possible, setting aside all the digital distractions that can pull us away from this moment. Putting your phone on do not disturb mode. And as you enter into this practice, just notice what comes up for you. So there may be some hesitancy or some reluctance in this practice. And if you're noticing any sense of resistance, bringing a sense of curiosity to the resistance. Perhaps the thinking mind wants to continue to think or do what it's really good at, which is to make the to-do list or to worry. And you can allow your eyes to close if you haven't closed them already. But if closing the eyes feels uncomfortable or does not feel supportive in any way, you can keep your eyes partly open, but focusing on a spot 3 to 4 feet in front of you and gazing softly at that spot. Taking a moment to notice the body, so noticing that the body is breathing. And I invite you to start or begin the self-compassion practice by bringing to mind a difficulty that you're currently experiencing. So this may be a frustrating situation at work, or perhaps a conversation you've been avoiding. Perhaps you or a loved one is experiencing some type of illness. Or perhaps you just feel the weight of all that is happening in the world on your shoulders. So actually bringing to mind, having a direct experience in knowing this difficulty, this suffering, this pain. And we are going to simply acknowledge this pain, this challenge, this difficulty, this irritation, whatever word or words feel right to you. So it can be something like, this is a moment of suffering, or ouch, that really hurts, or this is a lot, this is really painful. And as you name the difficulty, so not getting involved in the narrative of the difficulty, but just having a more direct experience of knowing the suffering. See what comes up for you. When you're able to meet your own pain, what happens in the body. And then recognizing that even though the exact details of this suffering, this pain, this challenge, this irritation, this annoyance may be slightly different, that there are countless others, that there are others who are experiencing similar difficulty. And in this way, human suffering is a thread that binds us to one another. And once again, using any words or phrases that feel right for you to acknowledge the fact that you are not alone. So it might be, I am not alone in my difficulties. This isn't personal. There are countless others who are experiencing similar challenge. We're just recognizing that you don't have to, you're not responsible for fixing it all, that you can show up for your part and practice letting go of the rest. Also noticing what it feels like to have this community support. Might use a phrase like, just like me. Just like me, there are others who are experiencing similar challenges. Or you might be able to get even more granular. Just like me, this person also doesn't want to engage in this conversation. Just like me, this person also finds this moment to be challenging. Then imagine that someone who you care about is experiencing a similar challenge. And notice what comes up for you as you imagine a friend or a loved one, a family member, colleague experiencing this similar challenge. What words of comfort, what words of compassion might you extend to this person? How would you show up for this person? What does it feel like to connect with this compassion? And then extending the same level of care to yourself. And so I'll offer some phrases of self-compassion that you can repeat quietly in your own mind. And please feel free to either skip any phrases or replace it with a different phrase. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I know ease and joy. May I be protected from harm. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm not alone. I can ask for help. And as you repeat these phrases and allow it to resonate in your own mind, notice how it feels in the body. How does your nervous system feel? Does it feel more regulated? Is there a little bit of spaciousness? And in a moment, we'll close the practice. But before we do, I invite you to check in and see if there is a word or a phrase or something that you would like to carry with you from this practice. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings everywhere be healthy. And may all beings everywhere live in peace. And whenever you feel ready, wiggling the fingers and toes, moving your body in any way that feels good to you. And whenever you feel ready, allow the eyes to open. Okay, so welcome back from our meditation. And I want to just open it up to all of you for any reflections. I'm curious to know what came up for you during the guided meditation. I also welcome any comments or questions from the reading in the book, or just anything that you want to chat about.
Sure, I'll be the first. Can you hear me?
All right, yes.
Hi, this is Michaela Jester. Thank you so much for guiding us through that. That was awesome. I will say that the resistance certainly came up for me. Sure, other people experienced the same thing, but it was very hard to just sit still and not touch anything. And just, it's almost like speaking to a toddler, speaking to your inner child, like, you know what's best for you. You need to sit here and do this. And once we started doing it, you know, then it came together. So that came up for me. And then the word that came up further was sludge, kind of how I feel as if it's kind of a time of like quicksand, like I can't shake off the excess. So I'm kind of going through a shedding process. So thank you very much. That's what came up for me.
Thank you for sharing that. And in you know, that resistance is really such a huge part of what we learn to work with, and also what we learn to tolerate, right, in this practice. I find that, you know, for lots of different reasons, a lot of us have developed sort of bad habits, right, where we know, like, you know, we need sort of quiet time and time to decompress and just time to practice being rather than doing. But it's so hard to get yourself sort of out of that constant doing mode.
Absolutely.
And also, like, the more you practice it, right, the easier it gets. So if there's like one thing that I want everyone to walk away from these 8 weeks, is to commit to having a daily practice, or as close to a daily practice as possible, right? And it could be, you know, any sort of contemplative practice. So whether it's, you know, meditation, yoga, qigong, going for walks in nature, like just something that, a practice that you can do where you can like just be with what is. And, you know, especially I think as lawyers, we come across a lot of trauma, either in, right, particularly from our law practice, right, but it also just being a human living in the United States right now. I think there's just so much trauma that we're all individually and collectively experiencing, and we can't process the trauma unless we create that space to just practice being. So I mentioned this in the other sessions, but I do a daily-ish. I say daily-ish because it's generally Monday through Thursday. I know there are a couple of you who are on this call who are part of that program. It's called Mindful Pause. So I just meet people just like over Zoom for 10 minutes every day, Monday through Thursday-ish at 9:30. So I'll put my email in the chat, and if you're interested in joining it, you can just email me. I offer it on a donation basis. So, and Catherine or Barry, if you want to chime in about the the Mindful Pause program, I would certainly welcome that. So,
well, I can talk about the Mindful Pause. I've just doing since our first session with this program back in late May, I think, and I come when I can. Jeena makes it really easy to drop in or out, and in terms of actually implementing a daily practice, it has been really helpful, because otherwise I tell myself I'll do it when I get to work, I'll do it when I get home at night, I'll do it before bed, and I just don't. And so this has really, really helped me start to incorporate that steadily into my life, so that can be something that I turn to without it being a big deal. It's just something that I can do and learn from.
thank you.
I would echo what Catherine said. You make it really easy to be there when we can, and not feel the pressure of having to be there, but it sits on my calendar so that I know that I've got a time set aside most days where it makes it easy for me to do the practice and kind of like recenter myself for the rest of the day. I have the advantage of being on the East Coast, so happens around midday for me, and so I get through half my day and then move on to the rest.
Thank you, Barry and Catherine. Yeah, any other questions or comments, or like what came up for you in these 4 weeks? Just see. And I just learned they're going to be releasing a paperback book of version of the book. But so there is compassion towards others, self-compassion, mantra repetition, heartfulness, and gratitude. Which all feels like really poignant topics in this moment. Oh. Like this is so rare. I have like 38 people on a Zoom call and no one is chatting.
Everyone's shy. It's okay. It's not you. It's us.
Yeah, you know, people want to just do like a one-word check-in, kind of let us know how you're doing, right? Because this is also an opportunity for us to kind of create that sense of a mindful community where there's that feeling of community support. So if you want to do just a one-word check-in, I would also welcome that. And Catherine.
Well, I didn't want to monopolize the conversation here, but if no one else is jumping in, I felt a sense of great calm. That's my word, calm, really come over me during our last meditation there. And it honestly felt in some ways very unusual, I think, because, you know, with anxiety and stress and everything else, the pressures of our profession, the pressures of family, it's sometimes, I think it's rare to truly feel a sense of peace or calm, and it was very refreshing. And so, you know, I think that's something that I would like to aim towards more as a goal, at least, to try to capture that sense of calm and to take it with me.
Was there something about the practice that kind of, you think, facilitated the sense of calm?
I think it was my phrase, you said to take a phrase with you, was "I am not alone." And I think that actually really resonated and helped me to know that, you know, whatever my struggles are, I'm not the first to have that struggle. There's a community there, a community of lawyers, a community in my office, a community in my family, in my neighborhood. There are people I can rely on. I don't have to just do it all myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just like reassuring yourself, I think just so often that like free floating anxiety that I know I certainly feel all the time is this intense feeling like I have to fix it all. I have to do it all. Like all the weight is on my shoulders. And if you can kind of take a step back and look at things from a broader perspective. And I find it just really helpful to like, you know, watch the sunset or the sunrise, where you can kind of experience a sense of awe. And also, you know, like remembering that, like, even though we can't abandon, right, our duties and our obligations, that we still have to meet them. But also we're not responsible for like just fixing it all. I think that's really hard, right? Especially as lawyers, like so often I would feel just the limitations of our legal system and how often, so often, even though, you know, even when the client sort of gets the end result that they want, they're still like kind of dissatisfied because what they really wanted was an apology or to make amends or to repair the relationship in some way. I think that's also where like compassion comes in handy. You can acknowledge and say like, look, you know, there are limitations to our legal system. And I'm also acknowledging, right, that what your experience. And I found that to be really helpful with my own clients, especially doing bankruptcy law, because needless to say, like no one ever comes to see a bankruptcy attorney with happy news. Often they go through some type of huge life trauma, which leads them to be in my office. And yes, I can get them to a point where they're debt free, but I can't, in many ways, like I can't restore them. You know, I can't bring back their dead spouse or, you know, their ill loved ones, right? Like there are just so many things that's just completely outside of our scope. And also like acknowledging my own suffering in that, right? Like just feeling like I so want to help this person beyond what the legal system can do. And that's completely not up to me, right? And also just like, yeah, it's really, really hard when you're sitting with a widow who is needing to file for bankruptcy because her husband died after, you know, 7 years battling with cancer. Like it's hard. And, you know, and I don't think like law school kind of prepares you for the human trauma that we witness. And it's like, you know, how do we show up for the suffering of others, right? Whether that's like our clients, for example, without completely losing ourselves in their suffering, because then we can't be an effective advocate, but also not disengage where you're sort of like robotic and the person feels like, you know, you're not emotionally attuned or engaged with them. And, you know, so I think these are just some of the issues that we don't really get a chance to talk a lot about in our law practice, but also feels really, you know, critically important.
Yeah, I love what you said about doing like the affirmation about I am doing my best, because you can only do so much. And I think as lawyers, we also have a hard time speaking up and asking for help. Like you were saying, we have to do it all. And sometimes I find when you sit back and you think about how you can delegate things out and ask for help, it relieves some of that. I think we're just also used to being so self-reliant. It's so hard to reach out.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, to be frank, right, our legal education definitely emphasizes, you know, like independence and, you know, self-reliance, and you're not supposed to ask for help and so on and so forth. So, you know, there's definitely just our own training and how, you know, and there's this kind of pressure to be like the smartest person in the room. Like we don't encourage collaboration. You know, just like there are a lot of like systemic reasons for why these, you know, feelings and experiences exist. And I see Ellen. Hi, Ellen. Good to see you. All right, so I see we are at time. So I want to just thank all of you for joining me for this like moment of pause. And I want to like really encourage all of you to give yourself that gift of radical rest. Like I think just, you know, we like live in this culture of overwork and overwriting, right? Just all the stuff that's happening. And, you know, it just feels like we need to have some time and space to be able to process, you know, just everything that's happening in the world, and also just, you know, like our personal life as well. So, all right, well, thanks everyone for being here with me today. And yeah, please feel free to email me, reach out. Oh, yeah, and I would definitely be open to a weekly meditation group for the Beverly Hills Bar Association. So let's chat about that as well. All right, but you're also welcome to join me in the daily 9:30, 10-minute session as well. And you can just email me for that. All right, take good care, everyone. Bye.